Peace will return to our continent with a pacified Russia. But we have to look at the situation before us. To remain a spectator in this dangerous world would be crazy. We need, without any further ado, to take steps to guarantee the security of France, Europe and Ukraine first. All of the initiatives for peace are going.
This is my video update on this Thursday, March the 6th, coming to you from Athens, Greece. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with Macron's speech that he made yesterday, where Macron had a mini meltdown, I guess you could say, a mini Napoleon meltdown. Macron was talking about how Russia needs to be pacified, and then you will have peace and stability in Europe. Russia is the threat, and Macron is the cure. Russia is the threat, and Macron is the cure. Yeah, Macron, man, he had a meltdown. Absolute meltdown. Yeah, Russia must be pacified. France is going to provide a nuclear umbrella to Europe to protect Europe. The French military is going to protect Europe. He said that the French army is the biggest and the baddest and the best army in Europe. He said something like that. Not exactly the way I'm phrasing it, but that was the point that he was making. And he also said that Russia violated the Minsk agreement and it cannot be trusted. He lied. Why would Macron lie? Come on, Macron, man. Why are you lying like that? Yeah, he said Russia violated Minsk. Which is interesting because here's an ex-post from Sprinter Observer. Macron said that Russia cannot be trusted because it violated the Minsk agreements. Looks like Macron is lying. 4 days before the Russian invasion, February 20th, 2022, Macron told Putin that the Minsk agreements have no legal force and are worthless. That's what he told Putin. Who's lying, Macron? Come on, man. Who can't be trusted? Why are you saying stuff like that? Merkel said that the 2014 Minsk agreement was an attempt to give Ukraine time. Ukraine used this time to become stronger. As you can see today, the Ukraine of 2014, 2015 is not the Ukraine of today. That is what Merkel said. And Hollande, who was the president before Macron, said, yes, Angela Merkel is right on this point. Since 2014, Ukraine has strengthened its military posture. It is the merit of the Minsk agreements to have given the Ukrainian army this opportunity. Who's lying, Macron? Who is lying? Putin or you? I think you are lying. You're the one that cannot be trusted. The collective West cannot be trusted. So that was Macron's meltdown yesterday in front of the French people, in front of the world. Macron is a globalist. His number one concern is not Ukraine. It's not even Russia. His number one concern is to keep the globalist project, the ideology and religion alive. And for Macron, it's all about more centralization to the EU core, the Brussels headquarters, more power to the globalists, and an EU army. Macron has been pushing for an EU army for years now, because an EU army means EU defense spending, means EU funds, war bonds, Euro bonds, you name it. That's what Macron is all about. And he's been pushing for this From even before the conflict in Ukraine, he's been pushing for an EU army, EU defense fund, and stuff like that. If Europe can control the finances, if the EU controls the finances, if the EU controls the laws, the judicial, the legislation, they have the euro. What they need now is to control the guns, right? And then you have a United States of Europe. So Russia and Trump and all of this stuff is the perfect excuse for Macron to push the EU agenda, which is the globalist agenda. So that was Macron in his meltdown yesterday. We actually have an article from Politico talking about the war bonds that Europe is going to be trying to raise. They're going to try to raise these war bonds. 1 second. I've got this on X, this screenshot. Markets are hungry for EU war bonds. That is from USAID funded Politico. And Politico is saying here in this article that the European Union is getting ready to tap markets for up to 150 billion to help finance military spending. If it does, it shouldn't have any trouble finding takers. The plan still needs approval from EU capitals, but if it goes ahead, the Commission would raise cash through bond auctions and pass on the money to member countries for defense outlays. They would then pay back the Commission for the funding. Europe right now, as I'm recording this video, they are having a war summit. That's right, a war summit. Not a peace summit, a war summit. That's the title, once again, from USAID Politico. EU holds war summit as US shuns Ukraine. Live updates. And you can see the photos of Macron and the Green Goblin, Tusk, Van der Crazy, and Orban, the main opposition to the war summit, Viktor Orban. When did Europe declare war? When did this happen? Europe is at war? When did this take place? They've been telling us for 3 years that they're not a party to this war. Europe, NATO, the United States, under Bidenopolis, we're not a party to this war. We are not a party to this war, they've been telling us. And now we have a war summit. Okay. A war summit. Macron is talking about war. The EU is having a war summit. Well, Macron is talking about pacifying Russia. French military in Ukraine, he said. French military, European military in Ukraine can pacify Russia. We have a war summit. We have the Telegraph. 1 second. The Telegraph, let me pull it up here. They're talking about a German army, how the return of the German army could help save Europe. Yeah, isn't that what we all want? The return of the German army. Okay, Telegraph. This is the UK Telegraph talking about how a strong German army can save Europe. Upside down world. Chrystia Freeland, who wants to be the next Prime Minister of Canada, said that Canada needs to move closer to Britain because British nukes will protect Canada from Trump. Bloomberg has an article saying Europe is getting ready for the end of NATO, and they talk about creating the ETO, the European Treaty Organization, a NATO without the United States, an ETO. British nukes to protect Canada, French nukes to protect Europe. a German army to save Europe. the European Treaty Organization. Has Trump even said that he's thinking of pulling the U.S. out of NATO? I don't think he said that. Musk has, I think he quoted a post on X. Someone posted on X, that's what happened. Someone posted on X that the US should get out of NATO or something like that. And Musk said, I agree. I think that's what happened. But I believe we don't have any statement from Trump saying that the United States is going to pull out of NATO or something like that. At least I don't remember him saying something like that or posting on Truth Social. Something connected to the US leaving NATO. Maybe I'm wrong, but from what I know, all we have at the moment is Elon Musk saying, I agree, to a post which said that the US should leave NATO or stop funding NATO or whatever. And they're freaking out. The entire collective West is in absolute hysteria because they're afraid that the money's going to stop flowing. That's what they're afraid of. Because for the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years, whatever it is, they've been living large off of the US money into Europe. You have the EU headquarters in Brussels, you have the NATO headquarters in Brussels, and then you have all of the US money flowing in. And everyone has been living large. There's an article in the Financial Times. Man, I got so many articles bookmarked and saved here. I'm losing track. There's an article on the Financial Times with the title, Europe must trim its welfare state to build a warfare state. There is no way of defending the continent without cuts to social spending. Remember the speech that Rutte gave about a month ago or a month and a half ago, where the CEO of NATO just new to his position. Maybe he had like a week or two as the new CEO of NATO, taking over for Stoltenberg. And he said in a speech that NATO just needs 1 more percent or 2 more percent of each member state's GDP, which can be taken away from social services, from pensions, healthcare. Just give us some of that money, 1 or 2% more, and just take from all of your welfare programs or your social services and just pour it into the military, and we're going to be all good. He said that about a month or maybe even 3 months ago. Probably more like 3 months ago. And here we are, the Financial Times, talking about how Europe has to trim its welfare state to build a warfare state. Everything that the collective West says about Russia is always projection. And they've been going on and on about how Russia is on war footing. It's a war economy. It's a war economy. That's how they're achieving all this growth. Russia is a war economy, and Russia was not a war economy. It has not shifted to a war economy. Not even close to becoming a war economy. But what Europe wants to do, what the EU wants to do, is they want to become a war economy, because that's where the money's at. It's in tourism and it's in war. And it's about building a make-believe fantasy military because that's all they're going to be able to do. They're going to build a fantasy make-believe military. All this money going into a gigantic fund. And yeah, just ask Ursula about the COOF fund, and you'll get an idea how a defense fund is going to work out for Europe. Just ask her about the COOF and the jab and all of that, and you'll see where all of this is going. Crazy stuff, man. Medvedev posted on X, Russia has become, as I speak to you, and for years to come, a threat to France and Europe, says Macron. Macron himself poses no big threat, though. He'll disappear forever, no later than May 14th, 2027, and he won't be missed. Well, he is auditioning for his next role as Emperor of Europe. So yesterday was also a kind of audition for Macron. He knows he's going to be leaving in a year and a half. And he's basically telling the globalist overlords, I'm the guy to run whatever organization you need to to have me run, whatever it's going to be. Where do you need me? World Bank, IMF, maybe some new organization, the ETO, not the NATO, but the European Treaty Organization. Maybe Macron is auditioning for that part. That's the post from Medvedev. Meanwhile, you have the German defense minister, Pistorius, is saying that Germany's been demilitarized. It's been deindustrialized and now it's demilitarized. Yeah, their arsenal is depleted. They have no more weapons to send to Ukraine. That is what Pistorius said yesterday. You also have, this is crazy. This should be my clown world. Germany's wild, man. Germany is absolutely insane in the membrane. I'm telling you, man. You have Germany freaking out about the possibility, and this is just a rumor. I don't even know if this is true. I reported on this a couple of days ago, that the US and Russia are going to partner up for Nord Stream 2. They're going to create some sort of partnership or joint venture. They'll get Nord Stream 2 going again, and they'll get the gas moving to Germany. And Germany's freaking out. You have this article from Bild, Germany considering how to disrupt restoration of Nord Stream 2. Germany is exploring levers to prevent the resumption of Nord Stream 2. The pipeline may allegedly be restarted under an agreement between the US and Russia as part of the settlement of the war in Ukraine, Bild reports. You got that? Oh, man. Simplicius the Thinker posted on his Substack. He posted this article on his Substack, and he said, I believe he said, we are in upside down crazy world. Germany is trying to prevent the resumption. Hey, buddy, don't be afraid. Cat's afraid. Germany is trying to prevent the resumption of Nord Stream 2. Germany is trying to prevent the resumption of Nord Stream 2. Upside down world. Actually, I think I had to go this way. I'm going the wrong way. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we've been looking in the wrong places. Maybe we've been looking at Gilligan and Zelensky. Oh, no, I don't have to go this way. Do I have to go this way? Oh, no, I'm lost. Let's go straight down. Lost in Athens. Yeah, we've been looking at Zelensky and Gilligan. I don't know, maybe Germany had something to do with Nord Stream 2. I don't know. Maybe the pirate did something. The pirate put like some dynamite under Nord Stream and aye, matey, that's an explosion. Just joking, man. Just joking. We all know it was Gilligan and the Andromeda yacht. So that's what's going on in insane Deutschland. Crazy, man. Absolutely crazy. What's up there? Oh boy, let's walk it. Let's walk it and see where it takes us. So Elensky gave a speech yesterday, a very defiant speech, where he didn't say that he's not going to apologize. He still hasn't apologized, right? He hasn't apologized. I talked about this in my video yesterday. He posted something on X talking about how he's ready to sign the minerals deal, and he wants to meet with Trump and present a truce plan. Anyway, I talked about it yesterday. But he also put out a video. And this video, he still didn't apologize to the United States. No apology. for everything that happened in the White House. But this video was completely different than what he posted on X. Completely different in the tone. In this video, Elensky was very defiant towards Trump in the United States. Basically, he said, look, if the US isn't going to support us, they're not going to give us money and weapons, no problem. We're going to be okay. We got Europe at our back, and we'll be fine without the US. It was almost as if the US is saying that they're going to dump Ukraine, but then Elensky said, oh, you're going to dump me? No, I'm going to dump you. And he put out this video. That's what it was. It was Zelensky saying, no, we're dumping you, America. You're not going to dump us. We're getting rid of you. And we're going to hook up with these Europeans, with the EU. That's who we're going to hook up with. Very bizarre video posted by the Green Goblin. No doubt that Macron and Stammer, they're puppeteering Elensky. No doubt about it. I wouldn't be surprised if they told Elensky, don't worry, we'll get you weapons. We'll keep the war going. You don't need Trump. You don't need the US. And as far as money goes, we got you covered because we're going to steal the 300 billion in Russian frozen assets. I wonder if they told him something like this, and Zelensky said, oh, okay, 300 billion? Very good. Very good. But Macron, he wants to steal the assets, and then he wants to keep the assets and give them over to Ukraine as loans. He doesn't even want to give the assets to Ukraine. He wants to loan the money to Ukraine and keep the Russian assets. Oh, Macron. But Stammer and Macron are puppeteering Elensky, no doubt about it. I believe we have the UK defense minister is going to be in the United States today or tomorrow to meet with Pete Hegseth to talk about the US continuing to support Project Ukraine. Europe is all over the place, man. They really are all over the place. They're flip-flopping everywhere. Macron is flip-flopping, Zelensky's flip-flopping, the UK is flip-flopping. Panic and hysteria throughout the collective West. Trump really did a number on them, huh? The Financial Times, they put out an article, an opinion piece with the title, Europe has no choice but to seize frozen Russian assets. Doing so is the only effective means of saving Ukraine. Oh, they want those frozen assets. I would not be surprised if at the end of this war summit today, they make a decision to seize the Russian frozen assets. I give it 20% chance, 25% chance that they say, okay, we're going to take these assets. Most likely not, because I still believe that there are some people in Brussels, in Europe, that are saying, don't steal these assets. You steal these assets, we're screwed. Everyone's going to pull out their money. But the crazies are taking over. They are taking over big time. We'll see what the decision is at the war summit taking place in Brussels. Let's see where these stairs take me. If they do take these frozen assets, then China's gonna be the first country to pull out their money from Europe. They may even pull it out, even if they don't take the frozen assets. Financial Times put out an article with the title, Hong Kong targets creation of rival to Euroclear. Authorities explore new Asian settlement house to boost global use of renminbi. That's not good for Euroclear. Not good at all. China has trillions, I believe, in Europe. And if they pull out, if they create a rival to Euroclear and they pull out all of their money from the EU, man, it's lights out for Euroclear. It's lights out for Europe, for the EU, if China ditches the Union. Ursula ditches Ursula. Bad news. Bad news for Euroclear, bad news for the EU. Rubio was speaking, I think, to Fox News, and the Secretary of State. He said that we have a proxy war between nuclear powers, the United States helping Ukraine and Russia. A proxy war between nuclear powers. The United States, he said, helping Ukraine, so U.S. in a proxy war with Russia.
President Trump views this as a protracted, stalemated conflict, and frankly, it's a proxy war between nuclear powers, the United States helping Ukraine and Russia. And it needs to come to an end. And no one has any idea or any plan to bring it to an end. The plan of the Ukrainians up to now and their allies on Capitol Hill and the people you talk to in other countries is, let's just keep giving them as much as they need for as long as it takes. That's not a strategy.
Interesting admission, a good admission, actually. I think this is good. I think that the Trump administration should come out with messaging, finally admitting that, yeah, this has been a proxy war all this time. It's a good thing that they admit that there is a proxy war and that the U.S. is the main sponsor of this proxy war, with a little help from Europe. This is true. Europe, the collective West, was also there. But mainly it's a proxy war between the United States and Russia. And I believe for the first time, you have a top U.S. official, the Secretary of State, saying as much. I don't think this was a slip up or by chance. I think the Trump administration wants to get the messaging out there that we're in a proxy war. It's very dangerous, and we got to get out of this thing. So they're kind of easing into it, the messaging to the United States, the admission that this has been a U.S.-funded proxy war all this time. The Trump administration, according to Politico, is also meeting with Elensky rivals, people who could possibly become president of Ukraine and not Zelensky. They're staying away from Zelensky because, as I have said in many videos, Zelensky, in my opinion, is part of the UK. The UK plan to keep control of Ukraine. If Elensky doesn't work out, then the UK, they have Zelensky as backup. But the US is not meeting with Zelensky. Who they are meeting with, from what I understand, is Tymoshenko, Yulia, whoa, a car almost hit me. Yulia Tymoshenko, and also with the Chocolate King, his team, not Poroshenko in person, but his team. And that's who they're meeting with to see if they could possibly take over for Elensky. So regime changes in the air, if you believe Politico's reporting, and why not? I kind of believe it. So I think I covered everything. All the craziness going on in the world, or at least in the world of Europe and NATO and Project Ukraine. Trump really broke their brains. He really broke their brains, and there's no indication that he's going to pull out of NATO or anything like that. He hasn't said anything along those lines, but they're all freaking out. The USAID thing really spooked them. It really spooked them. Man, they cut off the money of USAID. What if they cut off the money to NATO? What do we do then? Anyway, Trump put out a message to Hamas. Let me get in the shade here so I can read this message. He basically told Hamas that they have to release more hostages or else bad things are going to happen. He's given this warning out in the past. But let me read you what Dan Cohen says, because Dan Cohen on X, he's posting something that's very much in line with what we talked about in the Duran and what Alexander has also talked about with regards to Trump's strategy with the Middle East and with Israel and Gaza. And basically what Alexander has said, as well as Alistair Crook, who also said this, is that what Trump is doing, he's publicly propping up Netanyahu, while in the background, he's trying to find an off-ramp to the conflict in the Middle East, or at least to tone things down in the Middle East, because Trump wants to avoid a full-scale war in the Middle East. At least that's what many analysts think is going on in the background, in private, via diplomatic channels. But publicly, he's taking a very aggressive approach, all in order to prop up Netanyahu publicly. But this is what Dan Cohen says, and I think this is an excellent analysis. Last month, Trump said the U.S. would take over Gaza and ethnically cleanse it. He didn't do that. Then he demanded Hamas release all hostages on February 15th, or he'd let hell break out. Hamas released 3 hostages that day, and Trump did nothing. Today, the same day, Israeli media published leaks that he has sidestepped Netanyahu to hold secret talks with Hamas about a long-term ceasefire. He escalates his threat to kill everyone in Gaza if all hostages captives aren't released. This pattern suggests Trump is making big threats to strengthen Netanyahu domestically, but in private, taking a more pragmatic approach. If he decides to resume the genocide, the last year and a half made clear that the Israeli army will break before Gaza submits. A political settlement is the only way to end the war, just like in Ukraine at real Donald Trump. Be the peacemaker you promised to be. So I think that's a good analysis, a possible analysis as to what is going on. We'll see. We will see exactly what happens with this latest warning to Hamas, and if hostages are released, what comes next. So that's the Middle East. We can do a clown world now, I guess, and we can wrap this video up. And today's clown world is courtesy of Christian Amanpour, sophisticated journalist and international correspondent, and the president of Finland. Is he president or prime minister? Alexander Stubb. I think he's president. I don't know. I don't care. Alexander Stubb, I don't care. President, prime minister, whatever you are. Anyway, he's the leader of Finland. And he was being interviewed by Christian Amanpour, sophisticated journalist and international correspondent. And she asked him about Ukraine and NATO membership. And Stubb said that Ukraine can't become a NATO member, so why don't we give them a de facto NATO membership? Basically what he was getting at is that Ukraine doesn't get into NATO. This is this guy's plan. This is his brilliant plan. This is a leader of a country. His brilliant plan, that just got into NATO, by the way, a new member into NATO, is that because Ukraine cannot enter NATO now, if there is a ceasefire agreement or some sort of a peace deal, then the security guarantee that you provide Ukraine is that they're de facto into NATO. If Russia attacks Ukraine again, then they get automatic membership into NATO. So they're not in NATO, but if Russia does something, then it triggers an automatic membership into NATO.
Because you said at the very beginning, amongst everything, we also need an American backstop for any peace and any peace enforcement. Do you think you'll be able to convince them that that is something that they need to do? And I'm not talking about US boots on the ground, but all the other things.
Yeah, I hope we can. I mean, there's so many ways in which that can be done. Let me just give one example, which has been put forward by Senator Lindsey Graham from the United States, because right now it seems to be difficult for Ukraine to become a NATO member anytime soon, because the United States and Germany are quite skeptical about that. So why don't we instead give them a de facto NATO membership, which basically means that when the negotiations end and we have a peace settlement, a part of it all is to say that if Russia ever breaks that settlement or breaks the ceasefire, attacks Ukraine again, Ukraine becomes automatically a member of NATO. I think that is a strong enough backstop.
And that's the plan from Stu. Good plan. I think Russia will be fine with that, right? Russia will be fine. Not a NATO membership, but kind of de facto NATO membership. They're kind of in NATO. Just don't do anything. Don't touch Ukraine. Don't say you're going to touch Ukraine. Don't do anything. Because if you do something, then the next day they're automatically in NATO. There you go. You see, when great leaders come up with great plans. Oh boy. All right. That's the video. I don't think I have anything else. theduran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch. You will find a link to the Duran shop in the description box down below. Take care.